Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the PH Journals podcast. It's been a while. We kind of winding down the end of the season here in South Africa, and my hunting season has been absolutely out of this world. I never thought I would have been so blessed to have my season completely filled up, and already for 2026 we've only got a couple of spaces left, so I am truly blessed, and massive opportunity to say thank you to each and every single one of you guys that have made this podcast relevant and shared it across the boards, shared and commented, subscribed, and done all the irritating things that all of us influencers ask you guys to do. But it helps. It truly pays off, and I can't thank you guys enough for all the support and the wonderful feedback you guys have given me. And it just helps me carry on doing what I am so passionate about doing: hunting, sharing stories, doing a podcast, and of course inviting people over from outside of this beautiful country of ours to come and enjoy the cultures, the landscapes, and everything South Africa has to offer the people. So without further ado, this episode is jam-packed. And before we get into it, let me just take a few minutes to mention a very big thank you to MTN Ops. Come on board. It's official. Been utilizing the product for more than half of the season now, and unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. Unfortunately, we don't get it in South Africa, so if you are watching this from across the pond, the link will be down in my description below. Head along, support a brother where you can, and just enjoy the top quality supplementation you can get out in the bush, from hydration, pre-workouts, and all these sort of things. It's been absolutely mind-blowing. The creatine is out of this world. I've been using it for my recovery and a lot of my gym exercises. It's been outstanding. So a big shout out to MTN Ops. Thank you guys so much. And it's so awesome being a part of the team. The community is something so very special. So everyone down at MTN Ops, thank you so much for this incredible opportunity. Then I want to take this opportunity to thank Adam Shields from the Cat Hunter magazine. I received my very first copy. I've been fortunate enough to write a couple of articles, or one article specifically for Adam and the Cat Hunter magazine. I've thoroughly enjoyed the very short snippets of reading that I've done in there, and it's an incredible magazine that covers everything to do with cat hunting. It's something very, very special. I'll also add Adam's details down below, so if you want to get yourself a copy or get involved with the Cat Hunter magazine, please guys, reach out to Adam. It's an absolutely incredible initiative, and I can't thank him enough for sending me a copy and affording me the opportunity to be a part of the magazine itself by writing an article. So, a lot to dissect in this week's episode of the podcast. Let's get into it. So guys, I've split this podcast into two different segments. First, I would like to dissect on what's just happened over the past season, but more specifically talk about my Bontebok hunt that has recently just happened. And if you guys haven't yet, catch up on the latest episode of the Journal Hunting. It's on my YouTube channel, so head along and go and check that out. I'll put it in at the end of the screen after this podcast. So if you guys watch until the end, you guys will definitely catch the Bontebok hunt we've recently just done. And then second part of the podcast, this past couple of weeks have been incredibly frustrating. So just to give you guys a little brief just outline on what's really just happened, and it's all got to do with the South African government and the whole I actually don't know too much about the politics behind the situation. But anyway, just in a nutshell, I was meant to leave actually today. I was meant to head over to Ireland, meet up with a good friend, fellow podcast guest, Pat Dugan. He's not a client anymore. I call him family. He's an incredible human being. I was meant to touch base with him now. We were heading over to Ireland to hunt red stag, feather deer, roe deer. There were a couple of other species on the list, and I was going along just to experience the whole thing. I wasn't specifically hunting myself, although if the opportunity came up, I was never going to say no. And unfortunately, Ireland changed their legislation as far as what visa applications were concerned towards the beginning of this year, or sometime in the middle of the year. However, I kind of was incredibly relaxed about it. Bought my airline tickets pretty early, and fortunately, I'm part of the Emirates Skywards membership plan, so I could get a free transfer of the flight. So what initially happened is that I never realized it, but I got in touch with a very good friend of mine who played a number of years out in Ireland as a rugby player, and we were just chatting. I was like, hey bud, listen, I'm heading over to Ireland. He's like, Dulls, have you checked the new legislation as far as visa applications? Because the initial idea behind it was when you land in Ireland, you apply for a visa or a holiday visa or whatever it is. I'm not quite too sure with how the whole thing works out. But anyway, I was like, no, I haven't heard of this. I just all of a sudden, that you land and you apply for a visa and they issue it and you're granted access into Ireland. It's like, no, but listen, they've changed. But he has a number of a guy. He's an agent. He'll get you through all of this sort of thing. So back and forth, constantly with the outfitter and everyone involved to type letters for Pat as an invitation and all this sort of thing. So we'll deep dive into that a little bit later. Anyway, my visa still hasn't arrived. So I've had 3 applications. 2 of them were turned down, and this is the 3rd one. It hasn't arrived. I checked with the consulate on Monday. Nothing had arrived yet. So I've kind of just had to make the call. We were meant to leave today, and I had 48 hours to change my plane tickets, otherwise I lose the money. So I changed it for my Canadian hunt at the end of the year. We'll touch base on that as well when I get to the visa section. So anyway, still haven't got my visa. Unfortunately, I've had to cancel my plans to head over to Ireland. I'm gutted. I can't tell you guys how absolutely gutted I am. But I've learned a lot, so we'll discuss a little bit more about that in this week's episode of the podcast. So, getting back to the Bontebok. Well, Bontebok, for me, has got to be one of the most iconic, and I say iconic a lot in the YouTube episode as well. But as far as conservation is concerned in South Africa, Bontebok, black wildebeest, oribi, all these sort of things play a massive role into what we now see success stories of as what conservation is. And to break that down is the black wildebeest, Bontebok, and the oribi are success stories of hunters coming in, preserving these animals, understanding that they have value to the hunter and to people out there, holding those animals and making sure their numbers increase through means of management and control, and so that their value holds steady. Success story, right? Black wildebeest, mentioned it. Oribi, we've done numerous podcasts on the oribi, and I've done a podcast on the Bontebok. So for me, what happens is that Americans have to apply for CITES permits. I think it's Appendix 2. The Bontebok is part of. What this means is that you have to have a TOPS permit, and the American clients have to pre-apply through US Fish and Wildlife on that side 6 months before their safari of coming out. They have to pre-apply that they are coming out to plan to hunt a Bontebok, and they would like to ship it back. Post that, while they're here in South Africa, there's a whole various number of certificates and processes that have got to be done. Herd's got to be carefully managed, got to be separated from all Bontebok. It's got to be DNA tested. More than 20% of the herd has to be DNA tested ever so many months, right? That means it's a cost to the farmer coming out, flying over these animals, darting 20% of the herd, extracting blood, DNA samples, shipping them off to the scientific labs, having them DNA tested, and then brought the results back so that they can qualify for a certificate. I think it's going to be done every 5 to 10 years. Not 100% sure about that. I'll find out a little bit more. But that's what's got to happen. They've also got to apply for a TOPS permit, and as well as it's got to be within a CAE registered farm. I think it's 1.4 limit fence that it's got to be within. And no blazeback. Can't interbreed with blazeback, of course. So with this happening, the Bontebok's value has increasingly got more because there's not a lot of people hunting. However, when they do hunt them, they understand that they've got to pay premium pricing because of all these tests that have got to get done. It costs the farmer money to have these animals on his farm. So the price of the animal goes up. The South Africans, they see it as it's just kind of like a blazeback. So for us, when we get the opportunity, hey, Dills, listen, I need to manage my herd. Would you mind coming out and hopefully taking an opportunity at a nice old ram? Of course, I'm going to jump on the bandwagon and say, hell yeah, I'll be there. And because for me, it's a Bontebok is just one of those staturic animals, those animals that stood the test of time. They stood through this difficult period. They've got a story to their own. And for me, that is what I thrive as a hunter. My freezers are full. They are chock-a-block full. I've got meat for the next year and a half. So why would I go out and hunt more, especially on such a unique animal? And the reason is for conservation. I need to understand what it is about these animals that should drive anybody to be able to shoot them, especially an American hunter. They come out here, they think, oh, geez, $1,800 or $1,400 to $1,800 for a Bontebok that looks kind of like a blazeback. No one can tell, average American can't tell the difference. But it's the significant meaning behind the animal that is what we should be chasing. Because often I say, us as hunters, it's the trophy is just, it's wonderful. There's so many different varieties of trophy nowadays. I'm in this phase of my life where I'm really enjoying the skull mounts. So if you put a Bontebok skull and you put a blazeback skull, you're going to struggle to tell the difference if you're not a professional hunter or an avid hunter that's hunted these animals consistently or familiarized yourself with Bontebok and blazeback. So when they're standing, the Bontebok has such a unique, significant meaning, and it's such a special place in my heart, because that's the true definition of what hunting should be standing for: conservation, the conservation pinnacle of the success story. So that's what I wanted to understand. Although my deep freezers are full, I donated the meat to a local orphanage and a safe house. That's all wonderful, and it's all part of the hunting, and this is all part of why we do it. But let's not take away the fact that I was in absolute awe when we started descending off the mountaintop. So we put ourselves up in a vantage point. Now, this area, you can imagine, it's riddled with Bontebok. The Bontebok have been thriving there for over a decade. Never been pressurized, never been hunted. They've been poached, but never been physically actively hunted. It's more of a reserve for these animals. So get a vantage point, and as I descended into these valleys, I realized, I was like, holy crap, I'm really doing this. Like, this is a Bontebok. Like, I'm hunting a Bontebok. And I get goosebumps thinking about it right now. Because if there was ever a time for an individual to stamp or to tick a box off a bucket list, this was definitely one of them. One of the more special, unique moments for me. I've had some incredible moments in my hunting safari, but none I really appreciate. None I individually appreciate for myself. There's moments I've shared with other individuals that I'm like, yes, that was incredibly special. I'm so happy for them. But this time it was me. I was happy for myself. I was appreciative of what I could accomplish on this hunt. Now, my track record hasn't been the best. From the blesbok to the feather deer last year, first time success is very rare when it comes to me. And it's just partly because I get buck fever. No excuses or anything like that. I've put in a lot of work on my bow, and I've really honed in on my archery skills because I wanted to perfect it. I really want to be good at archery. I want to be able to be as confident as I possibly can when I am hunting these unique species. So anyway, we drop down into this basin. It's August. Yeah, it's difficult underfoot. We get these berg winds that sweep through these valleys. It's a hot wind, so your thermals are constantly blowing up. You've got to keep that in mind, but as the wind turns, you've got to always try and fend off the wind. The acacia trees have obviously all lost their leaves, so any movement through the acacia trees, it kind of like blurs it out, so the animal is a lot more wary through that. So for me, it was just a very interesting process. When there's something about holding a bow and you're advancing on an animal, you're stalking an animal, you are so much more primal than when you're guiding a client. And the reason for that is because I think when you're guiding a client, you're so worried about all the other external factors. Is he putting the foot right? Where am I going to place the sticks? Has he chambered around? When are we going to stop to chamber around? Is the gun unsafe? All these sort of things, whereas you can't really breathe in and interact with the moment. But when you individually hunting, Henry was a camera lady, so when you individually hunting, your primal instincts just zone in, and you're just like, I can feel every footstep that I'm taking. And so anyway, get down. There's this one ram that really just sticks out for me. It's old hip bones. I can see his hip bones from a mile away. But he's just got mass, and he's long. He's a very, very big Bontebok. I've hunted some giants in my day, but this is a very, very special Bontebok. Anyway, get down. The wind's twirling, so we work our way. Now, I found a road, and I felt it was a lot easier to work myself along the road because there was a lot less debris there, so that I wouldn't be bumping sticks and stuff around. Because when I'm in that zone, I'm constantly focusing, and I should be watching where my feet go, but I'm rather feeling where my feet go. So anyway, get in, first stalk on. He's all by himself, and he's feeding along the power line. So we get to where I had spotted him from up above. Get there, and I knock an arrow, and I'm waiting for him to come out. He's sitting at about 68 yards. I would like him to come like a good 5 to 6 yards closer, and I draw back because I know now that I'm going to have the 60-yard shot. So I draw back, and as I draw back, he spots us, gives us a snort, and I set my bow up, and he's off. Well, not like he didn't dart off, but he just kind of drifted off into the thicket. I knock, relax, calm down, and I said to Henry, we need to get back onto him, because if he beds down, I'm going to lose him. So we do. We make our way slowly, not pressure, and we pick them up. We pick him up pretty quickly, straight after that, a couple of yards down the road. So anyway, we make our way around. Now, I get into position. He's sitting at about 62 yards. I'm comfortable at 60. I know I can get him at 60. But the problem is, between me and the Bontebok, there's this almost like a line of, it wasn't acacia trees, but there's just, I think it's like a wild olive tree. Or there were like 3 of them in a line. And the Bontebok kind of utilized this as like a weaving mechanism. And he weaved in. And he came out, and I ranged him, and he was at 62 yards. And I drew back, and I didn't feel good about the shot. So I knocked down, settled, and I waited. He didn't know we were there. The wind was straight in our faces, so everything was good. I moved out to the side of the bush, and I ranged him again 54 yards. Knock an arrow, and I said to Henry, look, I'm going to step out. You just make sure you get the shot on camera. And as I draw back, step out to the left, and he's standing there, and I can see he's getting ready. Like he gives that snort, shakes his head, and looks away, looks back at me, and the next time he looks away, he's gone. And I get him in sight. Now I aim it in just under an inch below his chest cavity, because I know he was gonna string jump. But my intention was he was gonna string jump and run straight. I didn't know he was gonna string jump and dart off skew. And I let this arrow fly. And when I pulled the trigger, I knew it was a good shot, because it was just almost like time happened so slowly. He dipped into the arrow perfectly. It hit him just behind his shoulder. And with him jumping skew like that, somehow it must have deflected in the body and came out top high lung. And but double lung penetration, just nicking the top of the heart artery, severed it, and like you guys will see on the video, a couple of yards, and it was all over. It's very difficult once that all happens and how that unfolds. And even me talking about it now, I just get goosebumps, and I actually get this cold shiver down my spine, because you've just pulled off the unthinkable. Your first shot on a very, very iconic species, and a giant, to say the least, a once in a lifetime Bontebok. And you've pulled off this shot, and it's all worked out incredibly well. And it just all kind of unfolds in front of you. And when I was talking to the camera, I was almost in like this unreal awe belief. And I was like, holy crap, did that just really happen? Did we really just pull this all off? And it happens like this often. I mean, on the fellow deer hunt, but there's just something so meaningful behind this whole hunt. So it was a very, very special moment for me, and one I will hold very, very dear to my heart. So if you guys haven't yet, head along, go and check that episode out. It's it's a very, very, very special episode. I'm very, very proud of it, and I'm proud of how things kind of unfolded. So on to the next adventure. I head off into Canada at the end of the year, but I'll do a couple of podcasts before we head off down there. I'm looking forward to that one. That one's going to be epic. Selling my bow, by the way, so if anyone's interested, please hit me up. PSC Magnum 375. Selling it with all the bells and whistles, a couple of arrows as well. I'm selling my Cameron Haynes edition trigger. So yeah, if you guys are interested, hit me up. Let's get it rolling. We're going for a bit of a bow upgrade. Some exciting times in the PH Journals camp. Okay, guys. So yeah, I wanted to touch on the struggles of hunting abroad as far as South African perspective is concerned. Now, I never realized until I started hunting abroad, Spain, other than African countries, it's only been Spain, America, and then Canada now at the end of it. Macedonia, for instance, I think we're doing that next year together with New Zealand in 2027. But Macedonia was relatively easy. We didn't even have to apply for... There's no visa application for South Africans. You can just go. And I know Russia is one of them, but obviously with the war, it makes life a hell of a lot difficult. But if you're looking at the more iconic hunting destinations, Spain, UK, Ireland, Scotland, USA, Canada, you need visas to get in. And it's becoming more and more difficult. Like right now, I've got to reapply for my American visa. They normally issue me a 10-year visa. I think they're stopping that now, so I think I'm only going to get a 5-year visa if I'm not mistaken. And then I've got to reapply. Well, I've got to apply on top of that for my Canadian passport visa, which makes life, the paperwork trail that you leave behind when applying for these visas is intense. So what a lot of people need to understand is that, for instance, I'm going to give you just a rough estimate of my budget for this American hunt at the end of the safari. So plane tickets to return tickets are 22,000 Rand from the United States. Plane tickets to Cape Town for visa applications for my US and Canadian visa I'll be doing in Cape Town. Plane tickets to and from there is 1,800 Rand. Okay. And one night's accommodation is 1,900 Rand. And then obviously foods and miscellaneous I've just added on there as $1,000. So already we're sitting at 30,000 Rand. Then you've got your visas. So your US visa is 3,500 Rand plus 1,000 Rand for 1,500 Rand for the agent that assists with that. Same too with the Canadian visa. Canadian visa is 5,000 Rand plus 1,500 Rand for the agency that you use. So now we have 40,000 Rand. So 40,000 Rand spent, you're not even there. You're not even hunting an animal. You've done nothing about that. Exchange rate plays a massive role when going abroad. So right now, I think the Rand is sitting a little bit prettier than what it was, which is a good thing for me. I hope it holds this way. But next year when the hunting season starts, you hope it goes the other way around. No. Anyway, but the exchange rate is massive. It plays a massive role. And then shipping your trophies back is an absolute freaking nightmare because it's so expensive. The guys, I must say, the agents, the outfitters, everyone that I've dealt with is incredibly helpful. They just want the best for you. Now, I've always been under the impression, being a South African, that they kind of look down on you, not from a hunting perspective, but like low ends of the financial barrier, right? So they don't always treat you as premium clientele. Fair, because I'm not. I'm far from it. But I must say, the experiences I've had, especially with the outfitter down in Ireland when we were back and forth with the visa, Spain was absolutely outstanding. In America, the Maryland guys. And then Pat obviously has helped me throughout Arizona and all that sort of stuff. So it's been an absolutely incredible experience. Shipping agents have been outstanding. The communication is cool, sharp, and clear. I'm not going to have anything mounted that side. If I do shoot anything, I would have everything shipped over to me, and then I'll get the guys at Splitting Image to take it away. So the struggles are all about financial and, of course, visa applications. It's not as easy as us just jumping in a plane, hopping over the pond, and jumping into the next country and being able to hunt. It's incredibly difficult. Now, interesting one. If you want to take your rifle, I don't always take my bow, which is no paperwork needed. You just need the guys at the airport to check and go through it thoroughly and make sure that their side is all clear. If you want to take a rifle, the paperwork starts here in South Africa. It's intense. If you go into the States, it gets a lot more relaxed on that side. However, South Africa, we've got African Sky Safaris. They help you with the paperwork, getting your rifle in and out of the country. As well as that side, they will advise you on certain steps to take once you get to that side. But it seems like a pretty painless process. So for me, guys, if you are considering hunting abroad, I would highly recommend it. It's an incredible experience. I really, really think that every individual should experience at least one hunting trip outside of their motherland. And I know it's not for everyone, and I know not everyone can afford it, but it truly is an experience of a lifetime. And I think as hunters, the more cultures, the more experiences we experience, it only makes us better hunters at the end of the day. So, yeah, with that being said, that's the topic ticked off. And hopefully my visa application for Canada and the United States is a lot less painful than what it's been for Ireland. So I hope to get across the border at the end of November. So guys, we haven't done this in a while, but it's back. Story time. It's been a couple of podcasts that I have missed it, so I'll be honest. The stories that I'll be catching up on now were stories that I had read previously. So there are the shorter versions. I plugged it into Grok, the AI system, because it allows all the swearing and stuff that was in those stories. So there's nothing that's masked, just now it's shorter versions, because I want to try and catch up as much as I possibly can. So before we close this episode of the podcast, once again, thank you to each and every single one of you guys for the incredible support. If you haven't yet and you enjoyed this episode so far, hit the like button, turn on the notifications, and subscribe, guys. Please, it helps me. And I'll make a promise to you guys, the more subscribers I get, the easier this becomes for me, and the more I get to do this. And the more I get to do this, the more people start enjoying it. So my appreciation to you guys. Please, only takes a couple of seconds. Okay, closing off this podcast. How's the dills? Love the story segments of your show, and I thought I'd share this with your audience. So it's a windy afternoon, last few days of the hunt. The package was complete, and we were just going to have some fun in the blinds with our bows. Maybe pigs, maybe a baboon or two. Now the staff had been leaving bags of maize in the blinds, so they wouldn't have to carry it in every time there was a new client in camp. You can only imagine the story that's about to unfold. So we settle in, deadly silent. You can hear the wind whispering through the steel structure. In absolute chaos, in stumbles a troop of mischievous baboons, destructive little shits. My client lines up on a big male sitting on top of the maize heap. It's me, the client, and the tracker, all tucked inside the blind. In the corner, there's a white Hessian bag full of maize. Next thing, we hear footsteps on the roof, and before we can react, a juvenile male swings down straight into the blind, obviously eating there before, landing right between my client and the tracker. It was like time stood still. The tracker looked at me, the baboon staring at the client, and the client staring back at the tracker. And then absolute fucking pandemonium. Shit, maize, Hessian bag, tracker, client, myself, everywhere. The blind erupted into absolute panic. Needless to say, nobody got hurt. Not the client, not the tracker, and unfortunately not even the baboon. But it's a story I'll never forget, and it's a lifetime of memories made in just a mere seconds. I really enjoy the podcast. I enjoy the story segment, and I love the impact you have had on conservation and the hunting industry at large in South Africa. Keep up the good work. We'll touch base soon. So this is a good mate of mine. Unfortunately, I couldn't share his name. No, actually, you know what? I will. Paul van der Graan. He's a PhD. He was based in Bloemfontein, and he came down to the Eastern Cape. Actually, we hunted a property together, and through that property, he did his PhD course. Young guy, full of enthusiasm, but he's a maize. His parents are maize farmers up in Bloem, but I can only imagine. I mean, he must have been a youngster when the story all happened. So yeah, guys, that's him for this week's episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. It's been an absolute blessing to be back, and I can't wait for all the exciting stories I get to share with you guys soon. Hopefully we've got a couple of guests coming on to the podcast pretty soon, and there's something very, very exciting brewing for the month of October. There's a good possibility we'll be starting our very own documentary. That's all I'm leaving with you guys. But like always, if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon.